Hey guys, it's Jess, and today I have for you a fridge, freezer, and pantry tour. I'm going to show you the foods we typically buy, how we store them, our packaging, containers, all that stuff. So we are going to start with the fridge. Okay, so we'll start with the door side of the fridge and kind of move our way around. So obviously this is like the butter, cheese area. So we try to buy pasture-raised butter, so we usually get Vital Farms. Eventually we'll be able to make our own butter one day, but we don't get access to enough raw milk to do that. We don't buy these little Perfect bars that often, but sometimes we have these for when we go on longer hikes. We don't like to eat a lot of processed food. In the world of processed food, this isn't the worst thing, so we do sometimes have those, and then obviously cheese. So that's kind of this area. We eat lots of dairy, so lots of butter, cheese, stuff like that. This is like our syrup and sauces section. This is Matt's homemade coffee sweetener. We don't use processed sweeteners. Matt just makes a simple syrup out of brown sugar and water, so that's our coffee syrup for our lattes. He also makes a simple syrup for when we make water kefir. And then you just have some random things over here. Fermented cod liver oil. Very good for you. I need to start taking it again. Then we like fermenting all the things. So we have fermented red peppers. We have a local jam. And that's pretty much it. Everything is typically in glass. We don't like to use a lot of plastic. So then we're going to move over here. Okay, so this is the main part of this fridge. And again, everything in here is either homemade, local, and mostly, the containers are mostly glass. So we have homemade bone broth, Einkorn sourdough starter. And again, we use big mason jars with the plastic lids as much as we can. We don't have enough, so sometimes we have to use the metal ones. Just made shrubs the other day. We're just going to take some stuff out. So shrub is vinegar, berries, and honey. So you can add that to sparkling water. And just to show you, everything basically, like I said, is homemade. So we make our own sour cream. We like to use these wet jars a lot because they are super great because they're big, wide opening, and they're awesome to store things. So we make our own sour cream, yogurt. We get all of our cultures on cheesemaking.com. Have regular sourdough starter. We have homemade sauerkraut back there, homemade pickles. What else? This is our homemade yogurt with our, I think you call it, it's called the Louvel yogurt maker. I think that's how you say it. But we make our own yogurt with starters from cheesemaking.com. We have cheeses back here. Cheese we always buy in bricks, and then we'll shred it ourselves so it doesn't have as many chemicals. If you buy grated or shredded cheese, they add stuff to it. What else? We have, this is probably one of the only plastic packagings, peanut butter for the dogs when we leave the house. We don't eat a ton of peanut butter ourselves. And then just like little extra things, if we ever have extra vegetables, we'll put them in reused glass jars. And we do use plastic wrap. That's something we've not been able to not use when we're trying to become more plastic free. And then we'll have back there tomatoes, we have a head of butter lettuce, and then we have a chicken, a full chicken. All right, so now I'm going to show you the bottom half. Okay, welcome to the bottom half of the fridge. So down here on the bottom half of the door, we have a bunch of water kefir. So Matt brews water kefir, which is awesome. We don't drink any pop, soda, any of that stuff. So we make our own like flavored drinks. We have almost all of our meat, basically all our meat is from local farms. So it's pasture raised, grass fed. We shop as many local farms as we possibly can. So you have meat that's defrosting from the freezer, bacon. We do have pepperonis when we make homemade pizzas. Water kefir, another kind of sourdough starter, leftover sourdough starter, yeast. So just basically anything you need to make your own stuff. Then we eat a shit ton of eggs. So these are all farm fresh eggs. We have grated Parmesan here that we grated. So we do buy milk from a local grocery store, and it is pasteurized. So we are part of a herd share, so we can get raw milk, but the herd share we're part of right now, the cow is having its baby, so she's not producing milk, so we have to go with pasteurized milk. The good thing about this milk that we get though is low VAT pasteurization, so it's a little bit better than your regular pasteurized milk. So we have a bunch of milk, we have cream to make ice cream and other things. There's buttermilk back there as well, pancakes, all that stuff. Water, and then back here, if you can see that, that is our water kefir grains hanging out in their simple syrup for when Matt makes that. And then you have the veggie section, nothing exciting, typical veggies. We basically eat the same veggies all the time, green beans, scallions, broccoli, lettuce, cabbage, carrots, nothing fancy. We usually have a vegetable at every meal. So I think that is everything here. Where you can't see down here is just some like sauces and mustard and stuff like that. Okay, freezer section. We hate these kind of fridges because you can't fit that much in the freezer, but basically this is full of meat. And by meat, I mean beef. That is mostly what we eat is red beef. We eat chicken once in a while. We have pork for breakfast, but our main staple for protein is beef and eggs. So we buy as much ground beef as we can at once to store in here. We have ground pork for our breakfast sausage. Again, we do make all of our own bone broth, so we make it in big batches when we do have a full chicken, and store it in the freezer, so we always have that on hand. We also have bones left over to make more bone broth, and then some frozen fruit and homemade ice cream. If you're gonna eat ice cream and sweets, make them yourselves in these cool little ice cream containers, which is pretty cool. And then, last but not least, this is all of our cultures that we use to make yogurt, sour cream, all that stuff. Those stay here in the freezer, so that when we need to make a new batch of something, we can get it. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you our pantry. We live in an apartment that's about 1,000 square feet, so our pantry is pretty small. So I'm gonna pan over and show you all of our pantry goods, and you'll see that most of what we have is just kind of your basic pantry items. We don't have a lot of processed foods or snacks. So now I'm gonna show you that. Okay, so we're basically shoved in the corner to show you the pantry. The pantry is not a very deep pantry, but we have way more room than we even need. So basically the top is stuff we use most often: olive oil, soy sauce, and different vinegars. So that's up top. And pretty much everything is in glass containers unless something comes in plastic. We usually do buy the Jovial Foods oil, but because of all the quarantine stuff, that stuff is not available right now. So that we just got at the regular grocery store. Next section here is going to be sweeteners and canned goods. We don't eat a lot of canned goods. We have some tuna, some tomato paste for when we do make things with that. We do use a lot of honey. We try to get local honey. We use molasses to make our brown sugar and to make baked goods, and then coconut oil. So that's kind of this section. And then down here, this stuff is what we don't use as often. It's going to be more like your baking ingredients: baking soda, powder, different salts for fermentation and things, chocolate chips, some extracts, but there's not much here. Our eating style is pretty simple, so we don't have a lot of extra stuff. And then down here in the bottom is our little baby root cellar. So basically we eat lots of potatoes. So we have potatoes in here on this side, and then we have onions, shallots, garlic, stuff like that down there. Okay, so we have our kind of pantry dry goods up here on the top with the most used things easier to reach, and then the stuff we don't use as much at the very, very top. We have everything labeled with our decals. We have sugar. We use a lot of sugar because we, again, make water, kefir, kombucha, things like that. So we're not using it to just add to random things. We use it for mostly fermentation stuff. Brown sugar is typically for our latte syrup. This is usually full of coffee, but it's not right now. I do have this, the Vital Protein beef gelatin. I don't really use it that often. And then over here, which you can't really see, but we'll pan over in a minute, is some breadcrumbs and cornmeal and stuff like that. Up in the middle section is all the flours. I make all of our bread and any kind of bread product: tortillas, buns, pitas, all of that from scratch. So we have bread flour, regular all-purpose flour. We do eat a lot of regular white rice. We don't really eat wild rice or brown rice. Einkorn flour, rye flour, and rice flour. So it's all the flours. Also have a little bag of whole wheat. Don't use a lot of whole wheat flour. We mostly use white flours. At the very tippy top, which again we'll pan over in a second so you can see it better, we have a bunch of tea that we basically never drink because I thought I was going to like tea, but I don't. But we do use some of it for kombucha, and then in the summer sometimes we'll make black sweet tea. Big containers of kosher salt, ice cream salt for our ice cream maker. We do have steel cutouts up there. We don't really eat a lot of oatmeal, so those have been up there for a little while. Potato flakes for when I use my southern sourdough starter, and some leftover crackers from when we had the flu. Oh, and then corn tortillas. That's a huge staple when I'm not making our own flour tortillas. But that is the pantry. Okay, so that is our fridge, freezer, and pantry tour. As you can see, we pretty much eat 3 food groups: beef or meat, dairy, and some grains that is homemade. So all of our food is pretty much homemade. We don't really buy processed food. We don't buy snacks and chips and things like that. We eat 3 meals a day and basically cook everything from scratch, from scrambled eggs and sausage for breakfast to our homemade lattes to homemade tacos and bread and everything. So we have a pretty minimal menu and selection of food, but we are able to do a lot of things with it, and we have pretty low waste and a nice healthy traditional foods diet. So let me know if you have any questions, and make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video.